just one of those days. Hey guys, what's up? It's Millie's Millie Books. On March 27th, I got to meet Richelle Mead at Anderson's Bookshop in Naperville, Illinois. She did a brief Q&A and it was a good time. She was super awesome. I'm going to include the footage for the Q&A. So this is my little intro and I'm going to show you the books that I did get signed. Blood Promise, Vampire Academy, Last Sacrifice, and The Ruby Circle. Richelle did do a brief reading from her newest novel. I believe it's called Soundless, and it comes out this fall, I think November. I did not want to get in trouble for filming this, so I will link the Goodreads page down below if you want to hear a little bit more about the book. So yes, so I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. Thank you for watching.
On the fence right now. Thanks you guys for coming out. I've been in Michigan visiting my family, and it was kind of a last minute trip a few weeks ago. And I said to my publisher, I said, you know, I connect through Chicago. If we scheduled a last minute signing in Chicago, do you think anyone would come? So here we are. Thank you guys for that. Is it?
Yeah,
it's good now? I sound too loud to myself now. So yeah, what we're gonna do tonight is I will read a little bit for you, then I will answer your burning questions. I think I know what some of them are, but maybe not. And then we will sign some books, so it should be good. And what I'm going to read to you actually is an excerpt from a book that is not out yet. It is my book Soundless, coming out in November, and no one has ever heard this reading before. You guys are special because you're from the Midwest. We understand each other. We drink pop and eat a lot of ranch dressing. They don't always get that on the West Coast, so we're the same. So you guys get the special reading. Faye and Leeway cross paths again, and as you might guess, it's complicated. It always is. It always is between my people. So yeah, that is Soundless. It's a good time. It's a standalone book. I had a lot of fun with it, and that will be out November 10th. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, we have our question time, and let me see where I ended at. Oh yeah, we got like 20 minutes of questions. So whatever you guys want to talk about, movies, other books, future books, CW programming, I watch Rain in the 100, you know, anything, life lessons, I'm here for you. Ask your questions and we'll chat. Yes.
When's the next Game Board of the Gods book going to be coming out?
Oh, see, I knew that was coming. When's the next Game Board of the Gods book coming out? The next book is called The Eye of Andromeda, and I don't have a release date for it. It's kind of gotten sidelined by the YA stuff at the moment. It's kind of a business fact. The stuff that sells the best tends to push the others out of the way. So my YA schedule is full at the moment, but I haven't forgotten it. It's not like going to disappear. I would love it if it came out at the end of this year, but I can't say for sure. But I will definitely update my website and all the social media places once I know. Yes.
What made you want to write about vampires?
Well, why not? Why not write about vampires? You know, I really didn't have a fascination with vampires. Like, I run into people who just like vampires. They like love the fangs and they love the blood, and I'm like, I really don't like the blood. At the time for me, it was just, I need another series to write. I'm gonna write a YA series. I've been writing about demons, angels, fairies. What isn't anyone writing about? Oh, no one's writing about vampires. This was 2004, and so I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this. It's totally crazy, and so it just kind of fell out that way. And I had studied some Eastern European mythology in college, and there's a lot of cool vampires stuff in that region of the world too. So that was kind of an inspiration to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right there.
Okay. Have you ever thought about writing the Vampire Academy series in Dimitri's perspective?
Have I ever thought about writing the Vampire Academy series in Dimitri's perspective? Before I answer that, I'm going to tell you guys that very frequently you guys will hear me refer to the little box in the back of my head of story ideas. Like, you're going to say, hey, Richelle, would you ever write about Eddie and Jill? And I'll be like, you know, that's a story in the back of my head. You're going to hear about that back of my head thing a lot. Vampire Academy, through Dimitri's perspective, however, is not in the back of my head. So I'm sorry. I know people would love to see that. For me, there's a couple reasons for it. Part of it is I didn't go into the series thinking that way. If I had, I would have been thinking of a parallel plot that Dimitri could have been doing, because there's a lot of time Dimitri's off camera in the Vampire Academy series because Rose and Lissa are into shenanigans, and so I would have to have something for him to do in his own series. The other reason is that it would be so tricky writing it, because it would be like doing a research paper, because I would have to constantly go back to the first series and make sure every line of dialogue matched. I couldn't just let's write off the top of my head, because I swear if there was a scene that was the same in both books and I missed one sentence, my email box would explode the next day. I know, because it happens all the time whenever I make a mistake, because I do, and everyone's like, hey, did you know that on page 101? I'm like, yes, sorry, I'm so bad at continuity. Yeah, sadly at the moment there is no plans for that. Yes, right there.
Have you ever thought of a prequel with Rose's parents, having that background in Istanbul and Ipamaro in the underbelly of the world, and how Janine meets Abe?
So the question is, if I ever thought about writing something about Janine and Abe. That is in the story box in the back of my head. The problem with the story box is that it's dependent on my schedule, which is so full. So I do have all these ideas, and it's just when my schedule clears, it'd be great to do a story about Janine and Abe, and that is something I would like to do. People ask about that one a lot. I think mostly because they can't figure out how it came to be, and I'm kind of not sure either, which might be why I'm kind of putting it off, because I've got to be all right, how did this happen? That might even be beyond me. So it's there. I'd like to.
You write them very intriguingly. You had just enough mystery where you're all right, this could go somewhere.
They're fun. They're out there kind of characters, and honestly, those are the most fun to write. Just the really wacky, flawed characters, more so than the ones who always do well. They do the right thing and they're noble and good. Someone crazy like Abe is. He's awesome to write. Other things, yeah.
Besides Soundless, is there any other ideas out of the box and onto the paper?
I'm not sure who that speaker is, but I'll answer that. So do I have other ideas besides Soundless? I do. Ideas that came out of the box. And I can't talk about them. In fact, my publisher doesn't even want me to acknowledge I have other ideas. Just talk about Bloodlines and Soundless, that's it. There is going to be new stuff coming out from me next year. And that's really all I can tell you, except that it's not standalone. Soundless is standalone. The next thing is not. And I think it's cool. It's a little different style, but a lot of it's kind of the same stuff I like to do. I like to write girls having adventures and wacky guys, and I don't know. I think it's fun, but obviously I'm biased, or I wouldn't be. So yeah, I would expect by the end of this year we can start announcing stuff about what's coming. So yeah, hang on there. I've still got more books. When Ruby Circle came out, I'd get all these defeatist messages. Well, sure did like your books. Sorry, I won't be reading anymore. I'm like, wait, hold on, no. Don't stop buying my books. There's more, really. So, yeah, you had a question, didn't you?
Did you do any special research for Soundless? Because it is so different.
Any special research for Soundless? I did. There were two things I had to explore. One was the Chinese element, and the other was the deaf element. And I met with an old linguistics teacher of mine. I had taken her Intro to Linguistics course, and I remember her talking about how people who acquire sign language, how it affects the same process in your brain as spoken language. And so I met with her, and I'm like, okay, tell me, how would a society develop around this, and what happens if someone gets their hearing back, because that is something that happens in the book. It's going to be on the back of the book, so I didn't just spoil it. It happens pretty early on, and it's key plot point. So I asked her, is there a precedence for that? And she said, yes, there is actually. There are people who've had surgeries to restore their hearing, and then suddenly their whole world changes. So I had to do that. And then just, even though it's a fantasy world and I can blur the lines, it's not totally accurate to some historic period in ancient China, I still wanted to research certain things. So the clothing, the art, since Faye is an artist, there's so much like symbolism in ancient Chinese art. You know, a chrysanthemum means like 100 different things, so I had to kind of look into that stuff too. It was more research than I usually do. Vampire Academy, and I was just making that up. Some of it was research, but not like this. And I got to do someone else. Yeah.
How do you feel about the movie?
How do I feel about the movie? That and Game Board, like I know there's like the hot questions. The movie, I had fun with the movie, and I think it's so much easier on me than you guys, because people are like, don't you want to see your story represented exactly as you envision it in your head? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I wrote this book. There it is. It's done, you know what? And they can interpret it, and I'm cool with it. And you know, some people like the interpretation, some didn't. I had fun with it. I really liked the cast. The cast was great, and when I visited the set, what was even better is the cast loved it. Like, I didn't know if like once the camera shut off, they were gonna like walk up and be like, oh, stupid vampires. They were so into it. They were having fun. They had fun with each other, and that was cool to see. People ask, is there gonna be a second one? And it doesn't look that way. It got a lot of viewers at the movie, but what makes a successful book and what makes a successful movie are actually wildly different numbers. And so, I literally have millions of readers around the world, but it just wasn't enough to match who actually came to the theater. Even though a lot of my readers came, it needed to pull in some outside people. And so since it didn't, and it didn't clear its budget, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a second movie. I know there was a tweet recently. I don't know if anyone, yeah. I know, and it was, honestly, I do believe it was tongue-in-cheek. Julie Fleck from the Vampire Diaries made a comment about how she would love to do Vampire Academy. And honestly, I've heard nothing about this. Like, even the producers said, no, it's just something she said. So I almost cringe when that kind of thing happens, because now there's all these rumors going around that she's going to make it into a TV show. And I mean, I don't want to say it can't happen. Maybe it could. I'd be surprised if she did 2 vampire projects, because most people move on to something else. But who knows? Honestly, the people who produced the vampire movie are so hardcore, Vampire Academy movie, like, anything is possible with them. So I shouldn't say that something won't happen. Next question, yeah.
In Soundless, was it more the Chinese element or the deafness element that you wanted to write more about? Like, what kind of spurred you wanting to write that story?
It was both, actually. I'm not sure it was one more than the other. The deafness element was certainly cool just because it challenged me. I love writing Vampire Academy and Bloodlines, and I could come back to them in the story box. But it's so effortless just to like sit down and write one of those books, because I know that world inside and out, and I know what everyone's going to do. With a book like Soundless, I had to think about constantly everything, especially when someone regains their hearing and you're writing in a first-person perspective. You can't say, oh, I heard the clang of that bell. This is a person who's never heard anything. She doesn't know what the word clang is. She doesn't know the difference between a twinkling bell and a clanging bell. And so I had to constantly write this in a way that she's trying to describe a thing, but she doesn't even know how to. And so I really like that. My goal is to become a better writer over the years instead of taking a project like that. It's cool. And then just the Chinese element, I just feel like it's so underrepresented in Western culture. I mean, most high fantasy is Western Europe based, which I love. I grew up on Tolkien and these kind of German, English, medieval stuff, and I still love that, but there's all this great Chinese mythology to draw on, and so it was fun to kind of build that world. And my son, before he went to preschool, he had a nanny who was from Taiwan, and she was teaching him Mandarin. And so I got a little exposed to that culture, and for a while he could advise me on Mandarin words, but now that he doesn't see her, he's starting to forget it. But every once in a while he'll correct me, which is fun in a 3-year-old. No, mommy, no, it's Hong Sai. I'm sorry. And once he starts proofreading for me, it's going to be all over. When is my app going to be updated? I don't even know. So there's the story box, and then there's the list of things that Richelle has mentioned before, where the app is on that list. I don't know. I forgot the extra research. So, if you guys are interested in what Richelle Mead, you know, actually, I've actually been thinking of something. They're going to do something with it. They're going to make more of that. They're going to do research. Okay, I'll mention that. No, I want to know. Anything over here? If I'm totally caught up with rain? Yes, I am. Oh my gosh, totally. Well, Teen Francis. We're talking about rain, sorry if you're not caught up, you should be. Honestly, I don't know what screen testing they did with Mary and Tony. Like, I'm not even talking about morals, like, that they put the ethics aside. They have the worst chemistry I have ever, like, it's just painful for me to watch. Like, if she had this guy on the side and it was sizzling, like, I'd be all right, go for it. But I'm just like, oh, really? You're in love? Okay. But I don't know that she ever had a lot of, sometimes with Frances, I don't know either. And it goes back to what I said about interesting characters. Sometimes she's so good that she's interesting, but she's not as interesting as some of, like, the really flawed characters, you know, like Kenna. Kenna's crazy, and I love her for it. So, I don't know, we'll see, but yeah, I know how history goes, so I know what's going to happen, but yeah, no, Conde's no good.
Did he die in that episode, the last episode?
I watched it.
My Georgina series, what sparked that? I guess I really wanted to write a supernatural creature that should have been evil and make them sympathetic, and a succubus who, you know, her job is to corrupt the souls of mortal men, seemed like a good place to start. Especially to make her a romantic who wants to find love. That was really a cool idea. Because it's such a clash of things, and I really, really like that. I like the unexpected, you know, here she is the seductress, but she's a romantic, and so that was kind of what inspired it. And I also wanted to make it funny, because it doesn't sound funny, like, oh, she's a demon, and she has sex with men and sucks out their soul, and that's really not lighthearted, but I kind of made it lighthearted, and so it goes back to the challenging aspect. I like to kind of do that stuff in my writing. Yeah, a couple more in the back there.
Are you going to go back to Dark Swan?
Am I going to go back to Dark Swan? Oh, there it is. We've got the trifecta of questions. I knew that was, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to dodge it. Well, Dark Swan is a tricky one, because I kind of ended it with the 4th book. And I thought it was like a cool artsy ending, you know? I'm like, oh, it's kind of open-ended, and that's really neat. And there were like a bunch of readers who were like, no, that is so not neat. And, you know, I'll be honest, I'm mixed when people write me and tell me, like, you know, you should really write the book this way, or you should do this. And I'm like, you know, you got to write your own books if you want that to happen. I'm writing this one. And I'm usually not swayed by reader requests. I'm sorry, I'll tell you that right now if you're really going to ask me for something. But the more I think about Dark Swan, the more I'm like, oh, I kind of want to continue it. So I do want to continue it, but it has to go in the idea box right now because, again, the schedule's so tight. I do 2 books a year now. I used to do 4, and then I had kids, and they kind of took the place of those extra 2 books. I have 2 kids, 2 books, so I don't have as much time to do that. So that's why I can't do all these ideas. But it's there. It's not forgotten. I think we have time for one more. So that's going to be you.
Do you read fan fiction?
Do I read fan fiction? I do not read fan fiction, mostly because it weirds me out, but not for the reason you think. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. It just weirds me out to see my characters and my work manipulated by someone else. Like, I had a hard time reading the movie script. I liked the movie script, but it was just surreal to be like, whoa, it's my stuff, but it's not my stuff. And even listening to an audiobook of my exact words, it's very strange for me to hear this other voice. And so fan fiction falls into that category. But you know, fan fiction serves its purpose for all those people that are asking me, please, Richelle, make something happy happen to them. And like I said, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, fan fiction, happy things can come true in fan fiction. So, and it's fun for aspiring writers, I know, to do that. Honestly, if fan fiction had existed in the 80s, I would have been writing She-Ra and Gem fan fiction all the time. Yeah. So I do understand that need to like build on the worlds, and I think that's cool. So yeah, that's a fun thing for people to do, but I don't read it. And on that note, I think we're going to sign some books.
Blood Promise by Michelle Read. Ugh. Michelle Read.